Ziggity Zig back with the Friday Faff, and this is going to be a PvZ between some gold players. This was a replay sent to me by bomdagor, just entitled Yum Cupcakes, because of course down here on the bottom right of Akalon Ways. Thank you once again, Matt, for telling me what map I'm on, since I never remember or know the difference. I probably would have said something like Belshire Vestige. And this is Cupcake down here on the bottom right. So the first thing we're going to take a peek at is just sort of their entry-level EPM, and holy crap, Bomb, you're just going absolutely mad stink over there, but trying to get your, I don't know, probes matched up, something of the like. Now, what normally happens in a PvZ is, yeah, there you go. So you see your Observer goes out first as a Zerg player, I'm just talking about, even though I don't know why I've decided to focus on the Zerg, even though I know less about Zerg than I do about Protoss, but I'm just telling you what you normally see. You come out here, bomdagor's putting down the forward pylon, obviously going for either a Gateway Expand or Forge Fast Expand. Myself, I go for the Forge Fast Expand, mostly because I'm no good at the Gateway Expand. Now, the lucky thing here for Cupcake is that there are only two starting positions, so he's just going to go straight over there with the Overlord, not even bothering with the Drone Scout, just to take a look and see if there's any weird stuff on the way. Now, obviously, he's going to get up here, see this, see the Gateway, see an Expand, and be all, yeah, I know precisely what's going on. Booyah, Charlie. Having a quick peek back over here at the average EPM, and it looks like bomdagor is quite a bit ahead. Now, both these players are in gold. I think I mentioned that, but I don't think I really supplied too much information on there at the time. bomdagor checking for the Expand, not finding it already at, yeah, so there's a 14 supply, and it's going to be a 14 pool, so no fast expand from Cupcake, which is odd because you almost normally see a fast expand on a 1v1 map, but other times when you're on a 1v1 map and you know exactly where the other person is, you know exactly where they are, so without scouting, you go full on macro for a while, and then you put down the fast Roach Warren right after it, and you just go all in Ling Roach. Now, it's possible there are a number of different things going on, but here comes bomdagor is moving down to the natural. There's the gateways just completed there. So the next thing we get is the Nexus, which is maybe 30 behind, but that's probably because he's busy looking at his probe over here who's getting a little bit outmatched, but the next thing that bomdagor is going to throw down is get the first Zealot out. Now, occasionally what you do normally see is the finishing of this wall with maybe a pylon down here and the cybernetics core just there, and then a third gate, or a second gateway, third building, just to sort of go in between there. Cupcake does manage to take out bomdagor's probe, but over here, as you can see, if you look up here, where this is essentially where Cupcake sent his, this is actually essentially, I'm using all the wrong adjectives, where the Overlord was sent. Now, having known that he saw that expand, sort of, not really, no, hasn't actually viewed anything, but it's just sort of a late post spawning pool expand, getting a gas as well. This is a very odd build because he's not even going with a regular kind of expand second base, going for the third spot, which seems sort of strange. Not quite sure what's going on there, but in the meantime, bomdagor getting a forge to round out this base. No further buildings to begin with. One single gas, just to start off. There goes a second gateway. So just a few gateways, trying to get a few units out here, getting out just a number of zealots. I think it's possible that bomdagor was a little bit worried about what he saw, mostly because he didn't see the expand. He just saw the spawning pool go down right away. But here comes the Roach Warren, and so now it's going to be kind of, I don't know, that was just, for a macro build, that spawning pool was out way too early. So now bomdagor doing the right thing here, sending out 3 zealots just to see what on earth is going on, because I don't know why I chose not to say what the hell. I think I was just kind of deciding to censor myself for whatever reason. I don't know why I do that, but I did. So, the gateway on its way down, still no sign of anything, getting a pylon and a cannon just up here at the wall, because still just sort of slightly concerned, having seen that early spawning pool and not seeing any expand over here. Now, the thing is bomdagor is going to come up here, still sees no additional units, now sees a corner of an expand up there, so now looking at both bases on their way, sees that, does not know about the third, so therefore that's going to change things a little bit, and now sees, there we are, there are the roaches, so these 3 zealots, probably not going to see too much more action, but taking out maybe, hopefully, one more roach, that is quite a big deal. Still losing, yeah, it's kind of even, mostly, but it could have gone better. But what happens now is that bomdagor is aware that his opponent is on 2 bases, doesn't exactly know about the third, but is now just going to move out a number more units. Just still getting out the zealots because the cybernetics core is finally coming down up here towards the back, not needing to worry about being scanned by anything because you're not up against Terra. Now, the only method of scouting by a Zerg is by this one Overlord, who, Cupcake, sorry, dude, but you're still just sort of sitting there. You could wander up here, see what kind of thing's going on. You don't know if he's going Robo already. You don't know if it was a Forge Fast expand or a Gateway expand. All you know is that 3 Zealots gone into your base, and you didn't really have all that much to combat it, other than the fact that you've got a few roaches. So right now, what Cupcake is trying to do is put a little bit of pressure on, but all at the same time macroing up. So just trying to do something about this. And now here is Cupcake's first view of bomdagor's base, and it's going to be pretty much roach-proof, I guess, is about the only way of putting that. So here come the roaches. This was some sort of small push? I don't know. I don't come up against stuff like this in Silver League. How can you come up against stuff like this in Gold? I don't get it. This is such a late push and so few units. If you look at it right now, the income level is actually quite a far ahead, but all Cupcake is doing with this is just kind of having a slow work up with a few units. As far as army size go, I mean, yeah, you are a little bit ahead, but that's because bomdagor is also working on a little bit on a just sort of base management right now, macroing up at the same time. It's actually quite a bit behind. So the macro with a little bit of pressure here at the front probably means that Cupcake is actually sitting in a fairly decent position right now. However, leaving bomdagor alone without doing anything about it, and now moving up to four gates fully, with Warp Gate finishing, +1 on its way. No even sniffs of upgrades right now for Cupcake. No evolution chamber. You probably want to get one of those up, especially when you move up to 3 bases. You have to start figuring out how you're going to spend this money. And once you think that you're running out of, yeah, okay, he's making another queen down here, but if you can't keep up with that larva, you need to spend that money somewhere, and upgrades is some of the times one of the best ways to do it, and especially if you're going up against a +1 Zerg, which is going to happen any second now. But pretty much you're now into 1 gate. Here comes the army supply. It does outweigh bomdagor a little bit. However, he's going to run up against this wall and get quite a bit stopped. Now, unfortunately, here comes this little probe, and he is, just barely makes it out just then, and it's probably going to hop up here and put down a pylon, which might get noticed by that overlord, but we'll worry about that later. This overlord is still just not doing any kind of a good job of scouting, because before you head up the hill, before you head up this ramp, you want to know what might be there. So I'm just sort of curious about this, and here we go. We're going to see this. Yep, we're going to see where Cupcake just looks at that and says, "Nope, not interested." No sign of that whatsoever. This overlord up here just went a little bit too high, and here is a fairly decent reinforcement spot by bomdagor. Here's 3 more, or 3 total, and now as soon as you do that, this is when you can move out, and you can probably drop down either a Guardian Shield or a Force Field. Let's see what happens out of this. We're going to get a Guardian Shield up against these roaches. There are a number more units, and still quite a lot of roaches still being made, so bomdagor is moving out, but at the same time, his army supply is slowly catching up, because Cupcake is not keeping much of an army altogether. Here's a couple of roaches just slightly out of position. A few more roaches. These roaches at the top of the ramp, these ones at the bottom of the ramp, they're just not all staying together, and they're just getting in a whole lot of trouble because bomdagor is managing to keep his army pretty much all together. Here they all come. Now, when you get all these roaches down here all at the same time, then we're going to get into some bad zones. But once popping up the Guardian Shield, that cuts down on the amount of range attack that these roaches can do. These Zerglings hanging out here at the back still just not powerful enough to do anything about this. I mean, if you send the Zerglings in to take out the sentry, do a little bit of Dusty Micro right there, and then that will assist in letting your roaches take out these stalkers. But as it stands, these units just slowly coming in one at a time, just trickling in. bomdagor needs, yeah, there we go. So there we have, I was just about to say, a little reinforcement back here. So these forward pylons are just in excellent position to slowly make your way up. In fact, as he's slowly pushing his way up here and moves in towards this base, you probably want to put one either down here at the bottom of the ramp, or if there was any spot up here at the top, you could move this little probe in, and you could get just a little bit more of a forward momentum. Now, meanwhile, back in the base, not really seeing too much. bomdagor's just sort of adding in another assimilator. There are missile attacks, so the evolution chamber finally did get up for Cupcake, but not much past that. Back home, bomdagor's working on a robotics facility, and a few more zealots just slowly keeping up this push and this pressure here, because that's really taking down, or putting a small dent in Cupcake's worker supply, however, on 3 bases now, because bomdagor is not quite aware of the other one, which is kind of the only disadvantage that bomdagor has right here, is just having, before moving out, or while you're moving out, just toss out, because there's no research involved in getting hallucination out there and just sending out a Phoenix just to check the third, and it's pretty well known if anyone watches Maximus Black, being coached by Desiree. Desro, was it? I think. No, it wasn't Desro. It was someone else. But it was just the nomiker of check the turd. And whenever you check the turd, then you find out that there is a turd, and then you can send in your boys over there. So sorry for the French Canadian accent, but it's pretty much one of the only ones I've got. He says as if he doesn't have a lot of different accents that he doesn't ever use when casting StarCraft games. Here come these roaches, and they are just powering in here towards bomdagor's base. But once again, this wall, unless these roaches can do something about this, just focusing down one actual... No, it just seems like an A move up there. They're not actually focusing down on any one of these buildings, and it looks like these two force fields are going to keep most of these roaches down here, but they're not doing any damage from where they are right now. And then here comes the mothership core, and it's just going to scare off the remainder of these roaches, where if they actually just got in and focused down one gateway, did something, and there's half of them running away and the other half running in forward, and once again Cupcake is falling into the old trap of if you can't control your units, they all gonna die. And that is the main problem that is happening right here. There are two more, they just kind of run back when they decide, oh wait a minute, we just passed our entire group of friends and they all went back there. It's sort of like when you're doing something with your friends in high school and all of a sudden all your friends are kind of walking away from one particular hallway, and yeah, you kind of are a little bit curious as to what's going down that hallway, but once you go down that hallway you realize that what's actually going on is two drunk dudes are conducting some sort of very slapdash haphazard drug deal, and you might get in the middle of it, and when they're drunk then the knives come out and things go dangerous from there. I'm not sure exactly what high school these kinds of things happen at, but it's entirely possible. Not quite my high school, at least not in front of my face, and all sorts of other things happen at my school that I didn't know about, because all you gotta do is remember at high school is keep your head down and expand to a fourth base, because what the problem there is that bomdagor still is not quite checking out these additional bases, but he is trying to expand on his own, which is an excellent idea, because right now he's quite a bit far behind in the army supply, and these roaches are still making their way over. I'm not entirely sure. No, it doesn't look like they're going to do any kind of search, but he's finally taking out this really useless overlord at the front here, but the remainder of the army. Here's a couple of lings, I'm sorry, it's 16 minutes in, and your Zerglings have no speed? Anyway. Meanwhile, if you check up on the production tab up there, you see that there are Hydralisks on the way. bomdagor taking out these rocks just to slow up his opponent. Just one more little bit, still remaining fastened on to this idea of expanding to a third, but the cool thing here is that he can actually cut this army, funnel them through, take them out a piece at a time. These immortals are just going to cut right through these guys. A few force fields as it goes, but they're just cutting them in as they come down just a little bit further. Look at the kills on these 6 and 7 on these two immortals, and that's all that needs to be done. Out of force fields and out of sentries right now. Didn't return any more, but these stalkers come down here right now, and I believe they are at +1. Yes, they are. They're actually at 1-1. So now Cupcake has to retreat once more. bomdagor just staying in there, slowly expanding, taking care of things, and Cupcake just running past. So if you look at bomdagor's view, he just sees, okay, there goes the army heading all the way back, and just nobody looking up ramps, checking over things. Here's another warp prism. Here's the only warp prism, just sort of sitting over here. bomdagor is trying to do kind of a sneaky roundabout, but over here there's almost no need for a sneaky roundabout, because the only thing that is going on over here is a little bit of Roach Hydra and some Roach Hydra upgrades. Because at this point, after having mined out your main, Cupcake should really start to invest into something a little bit more than just sort of bashing his head against the front door. When you've bashed your head against the front door this many times, it's time to go around and try to see if there's anything you can do from the back. I mean, at this point, you could be into Broodlords if you got into Spines, and just something in the back. You could start doing some drops, start doing anything, but just anything other than just walking all your dudes into this main front door, because what's going to start happening coming out of this robotics facility pretty soon, don't quite see it yet, but there is the Dark Shrine. So now, with no overseers on the base, all bomdagor needs to do is just send in about 2 or 3 Dark Templar, and the game will be done. But moving in a few more sentries, because he's going to try to force field off this ramp, because that seems to be going quite well. The problem with this game is just an inability to adapt into a different game and a different mindset. If you are predominantly ground troops, but your ground troops are getting just absolutely slaughtered trying to keep up with the other ground troops, it's time to make a switch. So bomdagor here is sticking with what he knows, sticking with what is working, but the problem there is that when you're also doing that, you have to have a look and see what else is going on. So having moved in down here, and you saw it with the warp in from the warp prism and the rest of the stalkers, I did miss that, and I'm terribly sorry. Here's some Dark Templar, and they move in the back, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, where you can continue doing what you know, so you don't mix it up too much, but at the same time, you can just do a little bit of a snipe around and try to find out what's going on in their base. So the main problem, I have been focusing a lot on Cupcake here, is Cupcake just did not move out of any of this of this play of just the Roach Hydra, Roach Hydra, Roach Hydra. And the problem with the Roach Hydra is if it eventually gets stopped by some sort of wall, then all you're doing is just making a whole large amount of bank, not having quite anything to sort of visualize these invisible units that are coming in, and Cupcake is just destroying, or bomdagor is just destroying Cupcake's bases, slowly just trying to build a few more units back here at the main. And this enormous army from Cupcake is just completely useless because he's got no macro whatsoever left. He's actually got less harvesters now because of bomdagor's attacks with the Dark Templar. Still coming in here, still doing a little bit, and there is a macro hatch for whatever reason. I don't even know what's going on there. But meantime, Cupcake is just trying to figure out what to do with his army. Here comes the Overseers once more, and this army is finally going to take out these two Dark Templar with not too many kills, but they're definitely getting rid of a number of buildings. Still lots of opportunities here for bomdagor, where there is the Warp Prism sitting here in the base, and I think these Hydras are going to come down, possibly take care of this Warp Prism. And no, because he's moved to the front with the Roaches, and the Hydras are not close enough, so he's just going to be kind of blind to the front zone of that. Now the problem here, actually, you've actually been watching how long this game is going to be. Here are 3 more gates towards the middle, so once again, bomdagor sticking with the defense that is working, and then trying to mix up the offense. So he's moving the offense around because the defense is pretty much consistently battering up against walls. So what do you make at that point? You make more walls, and there you go. So with these units here, still continuing on, but he's got Zealots, Gateway, and Immortals, because that is pretty much all you need to keep going up against this. Now with these units, with the Warp Prism and the Dark Templar, they could come in and see if there's any other tech. Not seeing any other tech because there's no Spire, there's no Infestation Pit, nothing of the sort. There's not even I can't even tell. Was even a lair yet? I mean, just. Oh yeah, there's the lair there. So he didn't manage to get a lair. Meantime, still trying to do something about this. Still moving his army around his Cupcake. Just trying to keep a handle on what is going on here, where at this point, bomdagor doesn't even need to try all that hard. Just sending in just a couple of Zealots just to mess with his opponent. Meantime, probably could be spending a bit more back at home. There's a number more Zealots down here, and so once the pressure is on in your opponent's base, just keep the pressure up. Probably could be looking back in a little bit of base management back at home, because the money is starting to get a little bit out of hand. Not quite as out of hand as Cupcake, but you know, you can never get quite as out of hand as Cupcake, where I think Cupcake is just spiraling the drain at the moment. There's a small amount of macro management over there, but when you're on 3 bases and you're trying to just spread it in between everything, you probably want to get everybody into the gas, even though you've got plenty of gas at the moment. Cupcake is finally finding this pylon up here. Meantime, there's a number more Zealots down here. They are taking out. There goes the Hydralisk Den, and that is the end of that. So bomdagor just continually sniping, getting in here and removing any sort of chance of Cupcake getting back into this game, where at the moment the worker supply is pretty low for Cupcake, but the income level is really not all that different, just because the two are on this many bases, and now there are no workers down here, so the income probably could change if they did a little bit of base management, where you'd see just this number of drones split up amongst a few bases. These Zealots still coming down here. There goes the Hydralisk Den once more, instead of making any kind of additional base. It's or not, just some sort of other building. There goes the Robotics Bay finally from bomdagor, just deciding to split it up and realize that, hey, you know, I could probably kill these Hydralisks a lot faster if I had Colossus out, so starting to get a bit more of that. There's +3 on the way, so these Zealots are going to be even more detrimental, where the thing is here with the Roaches is the Roach Hydra is actually at 2-0, which isn't exactly 2-2 Roach Hydra, but certainly when you're just destroying things within your own base. And this, oh my goodness, if you could count the kills put up by this Warp Prism, I think that would really be the number there. If you look over here at the Units Lost tab, or the units killed and the workers killed, there it is. Is it 46 workers killed for bomdagor, and units killed is a little bit high, but on the Lost tab, they're actually pretty much the same. 4 lost as it is. Finally, the Spire going down. Oh my goodness, it's like he's trying to listen to me through the rear of this, just sort of as a back in time, but Here come two more Dark Templar are being warped in just over here by bomdagor. Cupcakes decided to try to move out with the entire Roach Hydra base again, but when you're moving out with Roach Hydra at 27 minutes, I don't see how you expect this to work much. I mean, it is a pretty big group, but the problem with that is you're pretty much just going to hit up this wall, and then what? And then when you see that bomdagor has an army, even, I mean, not the largest army you've ever seen, but just a sizable army, and then here comes these warp prisms again. They're going to move down. Here comes two roaches. They're trying to do something about this, but with these units, they just need to move in, get a little bit done. There's Psionic Storm on the way, Extended Thermal Lance, and Ground Weapons 3. Here comes a few more units, and they're just going to get tossed into the fray here. This Warp Prism, I'm attributing kills to this Warp Prism over here because he is just putting in work. Cupcake is still trying to pick up just queens and just little bits and pieces like that. bomdagor deciding to expand now to a fourth base just after deciding that pretty much this one is now mined out, and the natural is just about mined out as well. But Dust definitely has the money to stay in things and continue to get Templar into Archons. Could be quite handy, especially at 3-0 in just a moment. Still at 2-0 here, where the evolution chambers, I believe they're still sitting here. It's still sitting here, not actually doing anything. So it's just a large mob not putting in any work. I just don't understand what Cupcake thinks is going to happen here. It's just a complete lack of attention to detail. There's a Spire with the amount of money he's got, and still there's no larva. Maybe perhaps larva injects, I'm not entirely sure. Probably going to see a cancellation up on this because there is no defense available for it at the moment. bomdagor not able to get the cancel there. No, losing out of the money there, but that's okay. So with the remainder of these units just sort of waiting to charge up on the High Templar, waiting to get a few storms out of this, and that will really help out. But meantime, what bomdagor is doing in the meantime is just sending out a bunch more of these Dark Templar, and they're headed down this way, and there are the Broodlings that are doing a little bit of work there just to try to soften up these Dark Templar. But again, what Cupcake is doing is moving his entire army back once again. This is a 200 army. It's been a 200 army for about 10 minutes, but all he's doing is just running it back and forth. And now the Roach Warren's gone. The Roach Warren now being rebuilt. The Evolution Chamber is gone. This main base is completely destroyed. The Overseer's right here, and he does see these Dark Templar, but he just was not looking what was going on at the same time. This is a fascinating adventure into not actually looking to see what you're doing at one given moment. This is essentially what would happen if bomdagor played a game against me and I was playing Zerg, because I would not... One hand never knows what the other hand is doing. So now with a 163 army, but most of that is actually taken up with worker supplies, so if the army of workers could come over, but now here comes bomdagor trying to take this fourth base once more. This group of units over here by Cupcake is still trying to move around, get a small handle on things. The problem with Cupcake is that it doesn't really have, well, it has a little bit of map awareness, but not a whole lot of map awareness. And meantime, here come just a few straggly units in here, and going up against this clump of units by bomdagor with Scion Storm, Extended Thermal Lance, and Force Field, Guardian Shield, and I really don't think the 2-0 is going to cut it up against 3-2. And here come some Corruptors who really are just asking to get destroyed. So here go all of those Storms. Oh my goodness, all ground units. A couple of Colossus do lose out to these Corruptors, but what happens now is they will continue to take out the remainder of these Colossus, and then the Archons warping in will... Oh no, maybe the Stalkers will actually take care of these Corruptors, and that is essentially it. There is nothing remaining, and the only thing that Cupcake has left is a couple more Roaches, and just as many larvae as he had to begin with. And who came out of that one quite well was actually bomdagor, because, yeah, that went extremely well for bomdagor. And now the remainder of his army, with a few more reinforcements. Cupcake is still at a ridiculous amount. You probably want a macro hatch in every base, especially if you're not going to follow up on your larva injects and have a hard time probably getting larva out, because if you look at the units right now, larva, 5 larva right now, and that's just not going to be enough. And this is where the GG comes from Cupcake, and that is the end of the game. And wow! That was... So an interesting macro expanding game where Cupcake kept trying to move out with a large army and then just got indecisive whenever bomdagor makes up sort of strike, getting around, and yet Cupcake never learned from that. I mean, it's hard to say this outside of the game, but when you're actually in the game, you forget that you can move around and fly around back and do some sort of backdoor attack coming around from behind. He built the Spire almost 10 minutes ago, and still no flying units apart from a few Corruptors just towards the end there. And yes, they did a little bit of work against those Colossus, but if you don't move your units out of Psionic Storm, it's super happy death time. That was a game sent in by bomdagor. I will try to link to his channel in the description down below. That was a Friday Faff. Leave a comment down below. Send me an email, ziggityzig@gmail.com. Send me an interesting replay that you liked, that you thought was funny, that you thought was interesting, that you thought was crazy. So you can follow me on Twitter at ziggityzig. It's time for a drink of water. Stay tuned.